Watford away is where we start the game that will be remembered for two fantastic free kicks, but ultimately another frustrating afternoon. 2-2, the final score at Vicarage Road. Frustrating, Glenn, because you kind of felt like we did enough to win the game. We could have got a bit more out of that.
I would disagree with that, to be honest. I don't think we did do enough to win it. We in the first half, we looked the only decent team on the pitch, I thought, and we were going forward, and we were getting to about sort of 30 yards from the goal, and then not a lot was happening. We got the early-ish goal, 10 minutes, wasn't it? But for me, we didn't quite do enough in that first half. That would have been the time to, in an ideal world, to go and get a second goal, and that probably would have been the end of it. I thought Watford were pretty limited, all told, but they sort of got by with sort of athleticism and enthusiasm, and we really struggled with it in the second half. No doubt, not helped by the Flynn Downes deciding to cook for himself again, or whatever it was.
We need to talk about that, don't we?
Yeah. So him missing was. There was no disruptor in midfield. Shay Charles couldn't do it all on its own. So I do kind of question the decision to start Joe Robinson as a replacement and shuffle things around. I think maybe in hindsight, it would have been. I mean, Ronnie Edwards played in midfield for QPR last season, for example. Maybe that would have been better and not disrupted things too much. But that's a player out of position, obviously. So maybe not. And obviously Moses Sissé probably hadn't travelled, I imagine, which is because he would naturally be the, at that point. I know we've signed players now, but at that point he probably would have been thrown in to start the game, I would imagine. And obviously Mr. Fernandez had left. So so ironically we could have done with him yesterday, but there you go. But yeah, anyway, first half we were the better side, and it was all right. Watford, to be fair to them, they made 3 subs on about the 60-minute mark, I think it was, and that kind of changed the energy, and we kind of struggled to deal with it. The first goal we conceded, I think it's poor. I think there's 2 mistakes there, one by Ryan Manning, and I don't think Gavin Bazunu covered himself in glory on that goal. And yeah, the 2 free kicks at the end, it looked like we got out of jail when we got the free kick, which was, that free kick was a direct result of our substitutions. Adam Armstrong came on and got hauled down on the edge of the box. We suddenly sort of picked it up a little bit with those substitutions, got back in front, and then the build up to their free kick was questionable because I don't think it was even a foul by Shay Charles. I thought he'd won the ball, but he wanted to book Matsuki for the previous foul, which was 20 yards further up the pitch, and the referee just seemed to, I'm going to stop the game and book that guy, but I'll give the free kick, on the edge of the box. And of course, it's a brilliant free kick, and I think I got a quick look at Gavin Bazunu for the first goal, but anyone who thinks he can possibly pick that one out of the top corner is arbitrary, because honestly, that is just a perfect free kick. You can't save that no matter what. So, ultimately,
two in a week for him as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
because he got one last week at Swansea.
So ultimately, 2-2 is a disappointing result, but it's not the end of the world. And with the players we've got coming in, and the way the team will hopefully develop over these next sort of few months, not the end of the world, but it's frustrating nonetheless, because I feel that we should have put it to bed in the first half, but we didn't.
Good to see Cam Archer on the score sheet against Leeds. Have you got into the ground in time for that goal or not? Were you still queuing outside? Because it was a bit carnage, wasn't it?
Oh, absolute shit show, that place. Seriously.
Is it always like that?
Yes. Watford is notoriously bad. The concourse is tiny, and they don't serve alcohol. And you know in advance that there's no beer available in that away end. So everybody, if you're in the pub, everybody's always staying in the pub for one more beer. Right. And then it's a little bit of a late push. I mean, I was in that queue at 22, and we were already kind of back at where the club shop is on the corner of the ground. And I got to my seat. I think we were about 3 or 4 minutes in. So yeah, it wasn't Wasn't an organisational masterclass, that's for sure. But apparently, it's notorious for being like that. Especially like the last couple of seasons. Apparently, they're whoever it is that's running their security and entry stuff. Because there were like 2 ticket checks, and I mean, depending on whereabouts your kind of queue got shunted, there were either 2, maybe even 3 search points, and then you get to the turnstiles, and there's literally nobody at the turnstiles. So everybody's trying to scan these QR codes on the readers, and some of them are working, some of them aren't, and the ones that aren't is holding everybody up, and yeah, it's just an absolute mess. But Watford won't give a shit, will they? I mean, they don't care. These people are only turning up to Vicarage Road once a season.
They got your money.
Yeah, they got your money, and they grab that and move on. So yeah, I mean that was annoying, but yeah, having got in there, I was comfortably in my seat for the Archer goal. That was good reactions from him. I mean, it's one of those things you would expect your number 9 to be exactly in that position, but how many times have we seen this over a number of years where the ball falls in the 6-yard box from a set piece and we don't have anybody reacting to it? And he was so quick to get on the end of that, and I mean, he absolutely whacked it, didn't he, from about 3 yards out?
Yeah, it was a terrible header, though.
Great assist by Nathan Wood's nose.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'll give a little bit of a free pass to Nathan Wood's nose on the basis of the amount of abuse it's taken in the last week and a half from Stoke and Norwich, and from Ronnie Edwards as well at Norwich on Tuesday. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great header. He had a free header from about sort of 8 or 9 yards out where he made contact with it, and really he probably should have scored himself. But the fact that it fell kindly for Archer reacting quickly was nice little bonus. And yeah, I mean, you kind of hope now he's got a couple of goals, you can see that he's looking a little bit sharper. Obviously, stuff was said about him, and stuff was probably said to him, I imagine, by Will Still at various points over the pre-season, because he looked sharp at the beginning of pre-season, and then kind of went off the boil a little bit towards the start of the regular season. So there was a little bit of a question mark over whether he was doing all the things he should be to try and force his way into the side. And I mean, credit where it's due. He's obviously taken that on board and done exactly what he needed to.
And what was the quote after the Norwich game? Was it like read the room or something, wasn't it? Will Still essentially saying to him, look, there isn't a striker that's scoring goals. Yeah. So the shirt's there if you want to take it. The
shirt's there for whoever wants to grab it. And the only way you grab that is with performances on the pitch. And yeah, at Norwich he was excellent on Tuesday, and same again today. I mean, frankly, I'm not sure I would have taken him off. But in fairness, Armstrong coming on as a kind of almost direct replacement actually did quite well. His running, the runs that he was making were very similar to the ones that Archer was doing. One is the free kick that Manning scored from, so it worked out okay. But it's one of those, I kind of think, when your centre forward is in that little vein of form and he's looking as sharp as he is, maybe just leave him there. I mean, we haven't got a game for 2 weeks now. So it wasn't like he was tired and needed the rest.
I think he stopped running a little bit in the second half. I don't know whether he got tired or what, but I thought his second half performance was it was back to the.
I think that was in line with the rest of the team. I think because the ball didn't get into the areas where he was useful in the first half. Whereas I think that, as you said just now, those 3 subs that Watford made on the hour basically just wrestled back the midfield from us, and all of a sudden we didn't have the space. So in the first half, Azaz, Robinson, even Fraser in his sort of slightly unusual position for him, and Charles were all getting so much room in the centre of midfield. Like as soon as we played one pass through the line, then they had 20 yards of space to take a touch, turn, and run, which they obviously shut down in the second half. But yeah, second half wasn't anywhere near as impressive. But even so, we probably should have been able to comfortably hold on to it. But for, I've not seen I want to see the first goal back a little bit in terms of whether there was a foul. I mean, certainly from where we were stood. I mean, that away end, you're about 100 yards away from the incident, but the way Manning went down, it did look like he got a shove. Whether it was just one of those ones where it's a little bit of a soft nudge and he's tried to make the most of it, hoping that the ref gives it. But then, I mean, in fairness, the player's got an awful lot to do from the angle he's at. Yeah. It's a great finish, unfortunately. But neither keeper has actually made a save in that second half, I don't think. But that's 3 goals coming. Yeah, just the way it goes. I mean, great finishing for all 3 of them. I mean, I'll slightly disagree with Glenn. I don't think that first one's on Bazunu really. The force he's hit it, and the fact that it's gone like about 2 inches inside the far post, it's kind of perfectly placed, I think, really. But yeah, frustrating one in the end because I think once the season's up, I think you probably find Watford will be in the bottom half of the table. So that's one that we probably should have got to grips with. But we've done this a lot at Vicarage Road, haven't we? I mean, I know we're now 10 games unbeaten there, but a lot of those have been draws. I think it's like 7-8 draws, maybe. And a lot of those have been where we've had the lead and given it away late in the game. So that's not a trait that's unique to this group of players. It's something that we've been doing for quite some time, I'd say.
It's one of those ones, isn't it? The result in the context of the end of the season, it might not be so bad. Alfie, obviously a late change in midfield, as we kind of touched on. Flynn Downes having to be withdrawn because of illness. It's not the first time that's happened, though, is it? I kind of think, do they need a new chef? Is it about encouraging them to use hand sanitizer, wash your hands after you've been to the toilet? What's going on? Because that's like the second time now, isn't it? We've had players that have pulled out due to illness before kickoff.
Yeah, obviously we've had Ross Stewart and Damien Downes already this season miss games with illness. I think for Flynn Downes, this is the second or third time since that initial bout of illness he had when he first signed a couple of years ago. I wonder, he did have E. coli at the time, which is obviously quite a bad illness to have, and I do wonder if that has left a lasting impact on him, and he's just maybe a little bit weaker in that area. And obviously you can't play in those conditions. Obviously, it's a massive risk that you're trying to take, and you'd be weak, wouldn't you? Let's be honest. They did miss him, and I think Glenn's already sort of touched on the tactical side of it. But I mean, that miss has come a good time in terms of the perception of him, because there's a lot of talk about just flog him to Ipswich or take him out of the team and things like this. And we know he's a top Championship player. Right, he's not had the start that he's had in the previous seasons, particularly poor at Ipswich, but he's still an important piece of this team. And obviously the game came a day or two too early for the new signing, Casper Yander, as well, who we were sort of looking at and earmarking as a 6 and an 8 and a replacement for either Shea Charles or Flynn Downes in the team when needed. So it did leave Will Steele a little bit sort of bereft of options. And actually, you look at the subs he's made, and Steve points out the double change for Watford on the 56th minute, where the momentum then just completely changes, and still doesn't do anything until the 75th minute where he makes that triple change. But by the end of the game, for me, he's not got the options he needs, because he's got Ronnie Edwards playing at right wing back, he's got Ross Stewart playing on the left wing, he's got Damien Downes up front, who bless him, has done nothing so far in his early days, but he's done absolutely nothing.
Doesn't touch the ball, does he?
No, he doesn't touch the ball. No. Even when he's got an open goal, he doesn't touch the ball. That's the problem.
No.
But look, it's early days for him. I'm not going to write him off. But he's bringing players on who, like say, Ronnie Edwards completely wrong position, Ross Stewart just not in the right place. And I know that's the end of the game, but it did make me think, he's missing a lot there. And I sort of asked him about that after the game, and obviously they've made the signings to address that with Tom Fellows coming in as well. They'll have more with Elias Jellert just being confirmed 10 minutes ago as well. But yeah, I did look around, I did look at the bench, and obviously the quality's there, the wages are there compared to the Watford team. But I did just think you've not got the options that you need right now. You'll be bringing on players that you don't really want to be bringing on. The only other one is obviously Matsky, and it's whether Matsky could do a game from the start, because he could probably have started the game ahead of maybe Jay Robinson or whoever, a more natural midfielder, because the starting shape was really interesting. It's completely different. We've not seen it before. But it was like a 5-4-1 diamond, right? It sort of looked like to me. So obviously you had your back five and the 2 wing backs. Then you had obviously Shea Charles, who, by the way, was brilliant, I thought, for a lot of the game. I thought that he sort of broke up a lot of play against the transitions. I thought he was really good. And then you had Ryan Fraser and Jay Robinson either side of him, almost acting as sort of central midfielders, which we know Ryan Fraser can do, but is completely alien to Jay Robinson, who I thought tried, and I thought he didn't do badly, but it's just unnatural. And then Finn Azaz, I was really impressed with as well on his first start. Having barely trained, maybe one day at most. I like the energy he provided. I think he looks like a presence. He got stuck in for me. Like I've heard a lot about him being like lazy on the pitch, but I didn't quite see that certainly at the start of the game yesterday. And I thought they sort of played off Cameron Archer quite well. But yeah, I mean, going back to Cameron Archer, I'm rambling a bit now, but going back to Cameron Archer, we did ask Will still about those comments about, read the room and all that sort of stuff. And I think it's just as explicit as he's coming back too much. He's got all the best thing about him, he's got all the raw attributes. He can run and he can finish. But I think he's just overthinking his game a little bit too much at times. And, he'd have a man, he'd size them up, he'd go, and then he'd come back and play the ball backwards. And I think it's just, for Will Steele, it's about just use what you've got. Just run, keep running, whether it's with the ball or without the ball, just keep going behind the final line. And there was a couple of times in that first half. There was one in particular where I don't know who had the ball, but it was out on the right-hand side of the pitch. And Cameron could have made a brilliant run in behind. And they would have been one simple pass. He'd have been in behind and one-on-one again. But he just sort of stood behind the centre half, and the ball eventually got played, and he didn't have the legs to get there. So I think that's the sort of thing that Will Steele was referring to, just to keep going and to keep running, keep making the runs, knowing that you're probably not going to get it all the time, but when you do, you'll be there. But yeah, I mean, Cameron for me is the number one choice up front at the moment because there's nobody else. They're quite simply doing the business.
Yeah, really good. A couple of other players making full debuts as well. And obviously, Azaz coming in. I think he only arrived on Friday, didn't he? And then straight into the team. But encouraging signs?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Azaz, people are going to have to remember what we've bought him to do. We've bought him because he's a creative player, because he can pass the ball. I mean, he put one lovely ball through to Archer. He was marginally offside. Yeah, it looked to me like he was marginally offside, but that was, that's basically what he can do, because we would have messed that pass up. Anyone else would have messed that up, and it wouldn't have gone anywhere near him. So, but you have to remember, we're creative players, is that they are going to give the ball away occasionally. That's the nature of the beast. Matt Letizia gave the ball away loads, and that's the thing, because they're trying to do things, they're trying to make things happen, and that's what Azaz has been brought in to do. He's hopefully going to provide that missing link between our midfield and our attack, which we've seen all the preseason games and all the games so far. We haven't really sort of clicked in that area of the pitch, so he's come in to do that. He's we're obviously going to go to a sort of 4-2-3-1 formation, and he's going to be the one, in the middle behind the striker sort of thing. So I think, from that point of view, it was encouraging. He got caught on the ball a couple of times in the second half where, just looked a little bit leggy. It probably comes from, all the travelling or whatever he's been doing the last few days up and back to Middlesbrough or whatever. So, I think there were encouraging signs there, but yeah, we have to remember what he's been brought in to do and concentrate on the things that he's good at, and not worry so much about the things that he's maybe not so good at, because it's all about the team at the end of the day and how he fits into it. And hopefully he'll, if he does what we brought him in to do with sort of goals and assists and stuff like that, then that's going to be good for everybody and good for the team as a whole. But just let the boy play and see how he gets on. I was encouraged by what he did.